Hail State. New Mississippi State football coach Jeff Lebby will join the podcast shortly. An audition for a chair on College Game Day and the latest on the House versus NCAA settlement from the great Pete Thamel. This is College Game Day podcast for Monday, May 20th. Rece Davis with you, along with Pete Thamel. Pete, I don't know if you know this, but there was a bit of an impromptu College Game Day audition on Saturday evening in Chicago, sort of.
I was unaware of this Saturday evening in Chicago.
What happened was that there was a group that invited Desmond Howard, Lee Corso, and me to come in and to talk with these people and perhaps put on a bit of a show and have fun with them. And as it turns out, we felt like that we needed another analyst. And you thought maybe, well, maybe you don't need a football analyst because there are no football games, but you need somebody who is highly entertaining, who loves college sports, and is a friend of the program. So for the full performance, we had the great Ken Jeong in with us in this great theater on the south side of Chicago, packed house. It was great fun, in which Ken reaffirmed his claim that he's put on television and throughout the evening that Lee Corso is indeed his biological father.
That dude is funny, man.
Oh my goodness. You want to
talk about juice? He brings some juice now.
Seriously. He kept calling Corso the whole time like he did on the show. He kept calling him daddy. He would say something he would perhaps use because this was an R-rated version of Game Day, particularly in moments. And whenever he might have the language a little saltier, he'd look at LC and go, "Sorry, daddy, I know you're disappointed in me." And I mean, Desmond and I were killing it, but it was great to have a guy that I regard as he's on the Mount Rushmore. He is definitely in the Hall of Fame of College Game Day guest pickers, and he went after Corso again for picking Notre Dame when we were at Duke. Of course, Ken's an unbelievable Duke fan, but he was great. And Taylor McGregor was with us too. She was, our sideline reporter and also works for the Chicago Cubs. Just a highly talented, great professional. She worked the crowd for us, and it was a good time. A good time was had by us, and hopefully a good time was had by them as well. But Ken's ready if we ever need a pinch hitter, if we ever need someone else on Game Day too.
Well, this dovetails back to one of our text conversations this week, Rece. November 16th is there was a Football Scoop article about where Game Day could go every week, and November 16th was regarded as a lighter week. Now, again, that's a lot of variables have to happen between now and then, but I did just notice that old Wrigley Field is going to be hosting the Buckeyes that week with Northwestern, your defending Las Vegas Bowl champions. And I just sort of shot a text out to a few of our Game Day friends and said, that could be kind of fun. Wrigley Field, College Game Day, iconic American institutions colliding.
They've been there before. This was prior to our time. Yeah, they went, I don't remember the year, but there was a game. I think it was the game where both teams went in the same direction, because at the time they tried to play a game in Wrigley Field, and it was sort of determined that the wall was a little too close to the back of the end zone. So that
like Illinois and Northwestern?
It was Northwestern and Illinois. So there it was. So anyway, that's a
good decade
great
drought,
call.
different
It'd be
teams.
Fun. Yeah, no question. And Northwestern's going to be playing all over the Chicagoland area, it seems like, too. They're going to be moving around a little bit and playing some on campus as well. So anyway, fun, quick trip to Chicago. Good to see LC. He was rolling and great spirits and great health, and we had a really, really good time. And Desmond as well. Great to see him. And of course, Ken's friend of the program. And what just quickly as an aside, and we'll get to Jeff Lebby, the new head coach at Mississippi State, but what a down-to-earth superstar. Polite, kind, humble, gracious to everyone he meets. Just a terrific guy. We're always happy to have him on the show. Really happy to be in Starkville is Jeff Lebby. I'm sure many people are familiar with Jeff, who played at Oklahoma, had an injury in his career on the field prematurely, had a long career as a coordinator, starting for his father-in-law as an assistant coach at Baylor. His father-in-law is Art Briles, who led Baylor to great heights on the field. After that, he sort of had to reboot a little bit, went to Southeastern, then to UCF. Now, Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin had most recently been at Oklahoma before taking over as the head coach at Mississippi State for his first foray as a head coach, and an opportunity perhaps to bring some stability to Mississippi State football, which has been through a variety of circumstances, has had changes at the top, one for upward mobility in the coaching ranks, one from the proverbial doesn't fit. And there was obviously the devastating tragedy and loss of Mike Leach and then Zach Arnett last year. Always felt like one way or another that was an interim call, even when I guess officially the interim tag was removed. And now they're trying to regroup, get started, and win at a level that, quite frankly, Mississippi State never has. So we're delighted to have the new head coach of the Bulldogs, Jeff Lebby, join the podcast now. Jeff, there's been a lot of change around Mississippi State in terms of head coach the last few years. Obviously, the number one thing that brings stability is success. So in the early part of your tenure, before you've played a game, what do you think you've done to bring stability, which will lead to success at Mississippi State?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've done a really good job of putting together a roster. You know, I think that's the first thing we had to get done is we had to make sure that, man, the team that we're going to field this fall is a team that's got good players, you know, and that was something that was huge for us. You know, we needed the top part of our roster to be improved, but man, we needed the middle part of our roster to be much improved. We were able to get some of those pieces in place, a bunch in the first portal session, and then was able to adjust and find ways to add pieces here in the second cycle, which was good for us. So at the end of the day, it's going to be all about those guys that are playing every single Saturday. This is a player's game. We need the right pieces in place to be able to go win, have success, and then be able to sustain to create stability for state.
Jeff, I think one of the things that's interesting about the moment we are in college football is that it become a year-to-year business. Oftentimes, one year's roster doesn't translate a ton to the next. Now, some places it does, but continuity is almost a competitive advantage now more than a near certainty like it might have been 10 years ago. Give fans, if you don't mind, a taste of what to expect from Blake Shapen, what to expect from your transfer O-lineman. You obviously have a couple talented receivers you hit on in the portal. You have a couple talented receivers you hit on in recruiting. I just don't know, like, if the common college football fan really has an idea of State's identity because there is so little of it transferred from last season. Just give us a little flavor of what to expect from the personnel, please.
Yeah, the thing that I love is that there are guys that have played a whole bunch of football that are going to start for us this fall. It just wasn't actually here at State, you know, whether it was spread through the Big 12 or whether it was the ACC, wherever it was. We have guys that are going to play a lot of football that first Saturday that have played a bunch of ball. And it starts to me with Shapen. If we're going to go do what we want to do, the quarterback position, that's where everything's going to run through. I love where our guy's at. He's a guy that's done it. He's lived it. He's won a Big 12 championship. He's had success and he's had some failure too. And it's a guy that, man, plays the game, you know, in a way that is inspiring to his teammates because he plays with great edge. He plays with great toughness. It's a guy that can make every single throw on the field, that can anticipate and is really accurate. So I'm fired up about where Blake is. Again, the best part to me is, man, knew it because I've seen it up close in person. He had beat me at the last stop, 38-35, and saw a guy that found ways to win football games, but make plays and give him a chance to go have success. So I'm fired up about that. 4 of our 5 starting offensive linemen are going to be transfer guys, 2 starting receivers. Kevin Coleman is a guy that's going to play in the slot for us that got just a chance to have not a good year, but a great year because of how he does what he does every single day, his mindset, mentality, matched with a bunch of ability. This is a guy that's got a chance to have a big year, which I'm excited about. There's another piece, Seydou Traore, who is a young man that was actually here. He was ineligible here last year, but going to play tight end for us. Had an incredible spring, and this guy's got a chance to be a really good player for us. So I like where we're at. Von Booth is a young man we just signed from the second portal cycle that is with us now, and fired up about him as well. So I like where we're at, but man, I like where we're going. I think the hardest thing for us right now is that, I still want to be a developmental program. And for us, I think the thing that helps at Mississippi State is the fact that we've got great proximity to players. Inside of our 5-hour radius, we've got great football players inside this state and inside of 5 hours. So having the ability to develop these guys, still be a developmental program, know that there's going to be roster turnover, there's going to be change. But, man, we want to attract the best in this state and inside of 5 hours to come to state and have an incredible career. And that's going to be, to me, how we sustain.
You've been at places, you mentioned the last stop is one with great tradition of championships. You've been at places where you've helped build from virtually nothing at Baylor, and then you had to restart your coaching career. When you say developmental program at Mississippi State, how does that definition compare to what it used to mean in college football?
Yeah, I think now, again, things have turned so transactional to where it makes it hard to be a developmental system and a developmental league. I truly believe we have an advantage there because of, one, our staff, who we are every single day, and being incredibly relational, what our culture is going to be inside our building every day. Guys are going to enjoy the toughness and the hard that goes into it, but we're going to have fun in our building. Our culture is going to be one that, man, guys walk through those double doors every day and they're going to enjoy being in the building. I don't think that's necessarily the way things are everywhere right now. And again, that's up to me. That's up to our staff. That's exactly who we're going to be every single day. And the developmental piece, just knowing, and we're going to bet on ourselves, understanding what kind of player we're going to be able to get here. The fact that we don't have to hop on airplanes and go get them. And it's totally different than it was 3 years ago. It's completely different than it was 10 years ago. But we are going to be a program that does a ton of work inside the high school scene, and then just adding pieces to the puzzle through the portal.
The old Gene Stallings adage is, well, the fun's in the winning. So what is your definition of fun? How do you communicate that as a pitch, either to a high school recruit or to a guy in the portal who's considering Mississippi State?
I just think there's genuine energy inside our building. I call it genuine juice. When guys walk in, man, there is a great feel and a great buzz where we go to work every single day. And for us, that is important. Again, that's me setting the tone, setting what it's going to be like, what the expectation is, what the standard is, and guys understanding that we need to enjoy the doing too. And it's going to be hard. It's supposed to be incredibly hard. We all want it to be hard. This is SEC football. It's exactly what we want. But at the end of the day, man, having fun and enjoying what you do every single day, that matters in a great way to me. And our guys need to have a great college experience, and they do that through relationships and having relationships with their staff, with their teammates, and being able to go have fun in the doing.
Rece quotes Gene Stallings because he went to Alabama. I went to Syracuse, so I'm going to use a journalism quote here.
I thought you might use a Jim Boeheim quote. It's really hard. Every game's hard to win.
Adrian would have to beep those out. The ones, at least the ones he said to me. There's a journalism notion that says, "Show me, don't tell me." So, give me 3 examples of why your program is fun. Things you do conscientiously to foster that environment.
Yeah, the first thing is still going to be it's about me and the tone that I set every day inside the building, having incredible energy. Our guys understanding they're going to get the exact same me every single day. Regardless of what's going on, the consistency that I show is what's key in making it that type of energy and atmosphere. I think the thing that we talk about a ton is no comparisons, no complaints, no excuses. And while if we're not comparing ourselves to others, if we're not finding ways to complain, if we're not finding ways to make excuses, then having really good perspective and being appreciative for our opportunity, I think becomes a little more natural. So again, those are things we talk about nonstop and every single day. And then from a culture standpoint, again, the word fun comes up because of that's my vision for it. But I do. It's going to be a fun, tough, competitive, accountable culture. That's exactly who we're going to be in the building every day. But you can't say it; you got to live it. And that, again, that's going to start and end with me.
What hasn't been fun about taking over this job so far?
I think the biggest constant, without a doubt, is just all the staffing. And it's that part has been nonstop. About 4 days ago, we had hired our last creative position inside our building to make a team of 5, which was fired up about that. And then 3 days later, we had a GA leave. So for the first time, we were fully staffed, did not have an opening. And 3 days later, I get a phone call and a young man's decided to leave. So now here we are working through that. So I think that's the thing, that not that it hadn't been fun, because I've enjoyed the pieces of being able to put it all together. I like that challenge and making sure that we're maximizing every single chair inside our building and every single position. But it has just been incredibly constant since November 26th.
So it's interesting to me seeing a lot of coaches over the years go from coordinator job like you had, Jeff, to head coach. And one of the big onuses that you don't have as much responsibility for is hiring all those people. So under your purview, how many humans are there?
We've got 65 inside the building right now. That is through obviously sports medicine, nutrition. That is counting everybody inside the building, but we got quite a few.
Yeah. No, and I think as you've gone on here the past few months, do you have to make conscious decisions how hands-on you are in the hirings? And do you have a chief of staff or somebody who kind of gets the final couple to you? Just walk me through that. I really just think it's interesting how these buildings have exploded with people, and all justified, but it's that's a lot. That's a lot of people to
That's
manage.
a lot. Yeah, no doubt. Depending on what part of the program they're touching every single day is how I'll be involved, or how much I'll make the decision at the end of it. I'm going to want to be, from a Zoom standpoint, interview standpoint, be on with every single one of these people to make sure that I've got great awareness of who we're bringing in. But I'll lean on my staff to get us to a final 2 or 3, kind of like you mentioned, and be able to run with it from there and then go make a decision.
Well, you used the phrase genuine juice a minute ago, and it brought to mind a couple of questions about that. Number one, let me start with this one. How do you maintain the genuine juice? Caffeine, Celsius, something else? What's your go-to to keep that going, to keep the energy up?
I am a caffeine guy, and I don't mind a 6-shot espresso to get it going. This morning, it was a little bit random, but I go through Starbucks, get my 6-shot espresso. She said, "Why do you need all 6 shots?" I said, "Well, I'm going to get it going this morning, just like last Friday and Thursday." And that's what I do every single day. So that's how I get it going. But no, I do believe this. My dad is so much of me, and I played for my father in high school. I saw him doing it at a level where, man, he had this incredible juice about him every day, and he had this genuine love for getting to do what we get to do. And I think so much of that is exactly why I am the way I am today, because I saw him do it. And to me, if it's 5A high school football in the state of Texas, or being an SEC head coach, being grateful for opportunity, having a real perspective, being thankful for what we get to do and how we get to do it every day, that matters. And again, to me, that's why it comes naturally for me to be able to lead the way that I saw him lead, and that makes it fun.
In your first experience as a head coach, and I've read quite a bit what an impact your father had on you. Your father-in-law is Art Briles. You coach for him. Bob Stoops. What elements of those guys do you see in yourself as you embark on this head coaching career of yours?
Yeah, I think when you look at where I've been able to be from a stop standpoint, the people I've been able to work for, just some incredible offensive minds, some incredible leaders, all winners, championship winners. And, there's a ton of different pieces that I've been able to take from each one of them. I think from a philosophical standpoint and how we play offense and how we do what we do on the offensive side of the ball is still the very base of it with Coach Brawls. Being there with him for 8 years and understanding we dictate how the game is played because of how we play when we got the football. That part won't ever change and is a huge part of what we're still doing today. Being in college and seeing Coach Stoops do it the way he did it, and then being around hype and doing it at UCF and what he's done, and then obviously with Coach Kiffin up the road, there's been so many different personalities, so many different experiences that have created this opportunity for me, and forever grateful for every single one of them, but trying to take the best from all of it and being able to go make it ours.
I think one of the interesting pivots in your career, Jeff, is going from an offensive lineman as a player to a quarterback coach and then an offensive coordinator and play caller. That is, I would say, an anomalous transition. I would think you are this is off the top of my head, and Rece would probably know because he's encyclopedic in his knowledge. You are probably the only former offensive lineman turned quarterback guy who's a head coach in college football now. Would you agree with that, Rece? There's some line coaches, Mike Bloomgren, Steve Adazio was one. There's a handful of them. Rod Carey was one for a while on the landscape, but I would not think any of those guys went through the quarterback room. Would you agree with that, Rece?
Nobody jumps to mind, although it seems to me that there are a couple of guys in the NFL who've made that. But I've always maintained, and I'm not trying to kiss up to Jeff here, but the offensive linemen generally speaking, are the smartest guys on the team collectively. Maybe you say quarterback, but the offensive linemen, and maybe not smartest is maybe not the way to put it, but they understand the need to work together, and they understand the value of team and protection and design. And I don't mean protection like pass protection. I mean sort of a philosophical type of thing. They've got a nature about them, generally speaking, that is conducive to doing this. I don't think it's too surprising, but maybe the actual skill of teaching quarterbacks is what Pete's getting at, and it is interesting.
Yeah, where and how did you make that pivot, Jeff? And was it conscious? Like, I am going to start on a quarterback path, or did it happen organically?
No, it was actually my time in Waco. I had an opportunity to take an offensive line job, and at that point was when Coach Brawls actually mentioned, "Hey, don't put yourself in that room." He saw me having a little different ceiling where, 4 years into my career, I wanted to coach offensive line. I was an O-line guy. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have all 20 of them. When at the end of the day, it was the best advice I ever got, was to steer myself in a way to move towards the skill pieces of it, tight ends and then running backs. And then Josh Heupel was the one at UCF that gave me the opportunity to coach the Qs every single day. And he's the one that created so much confidence for me in being able to help a guy, to be able to fix a guy, to coach the fundamentals of the position, not just how to get to his decision making and where to go with the football and situationally understanding things, because that's one thing. But the fundamental side of it, that is who created so much confidence for me in coaching the position every single day, and the year-round calendar and the developmental pieces of it that have put me sitting here today. So that's where it all happened.
How would you describe, Jeff, the way you'll lean on, reach out to, impact that Art Briles will have around the Mississippi State program right now, on you personally or on the program as you get started?
Yeah, I just think, whether it's when we're on vacation here at the end of June and the entire family's able to be together, and just the small talk conversation of whatever it may be, from watching ball on TV or talking about a quarterback or talking about a recruit, just having somebody that had the success that he had, that loves it the way he loves it, and being able to talk through things with, regardless of how big or how small of a deal it is just phenomenal for me. A man that I've known since the day I was born, and is somebody that, again, as I got into it, from the football landscape and the philosophy side, the philosophical side of it is so much of who we are today.
part of your quarterback training pedigree came when I believe you were a QC or an offensive assistant. Those terms are a little nebulous to me at Baylor. And you had our friend and colleague Robert Griffin play the quarterback position just about as well as anybody's done it this century in college football. Do you have a favorite story about RG3 or a favorite moment or game when you call back now? Gosh, we're going almost on 2 decades for Robert here, but just from that moment in time and just he obviously had a prolific career there.
Yeah, I mean, pretty cool. But 2 things that stick out to me was one of his very first carries that he had in his true freshman year against Wake Forest, where he kind of toe tapped on the sideline, made an incredible play, and created an explosive play. And that's when it was like, okay, he's different. When you knew at times in practice, but then you see him go play in the game and understand, man, we've got something that's going to be a lot of fun to coach. And then I'd say the Texas game, winning 30-10 and winning him winning the first Heisman in the history of the school was something that obviously stands out in a huge way. And he had this great amount of confidence in the post game, saying, I think they had just won their first Heisman. So from the very beginning of it to the end of it, class act, ton of ability that, man, just found ways again to inspire and make guys around him better every single day. It was fun.
The type of offense that you would like to put up, that your history suggests that you will put up, would certainly make the Egg Bowl even more entertaining than it typically is. I did notice a few moments ago when you referenced Lane and your time working there that you referred to it as a school up the road. One of your predecessors used to call it the school up north. There have been other derogatory terms that many around Starkville have used for the University of Mississippi. How do you refer to it now?
I refer to them as, it depends on the setting, but man, that's going to be a fun one. I think we all know that from my.
You're not answering the question, Jeff. What do you call them?
I'll call them Ole Miss today.
Okay, all right.
No, it will. I think we all know that it'll be a fun one. Obviously, both offenses and our history together. Me spending 2 years there with Lane and now being able to do this in this state and it being such a huge pivotal game for our program will be a ton of fun.
That's a rivalry that does not need a 6-shot espresso in the morning. One thing I do think interesting, sort of going through your path, Jeff, is that you were with Lane kind of at a time when he started to become the portal king and started to gain a comfort level with the type of roster turnover and upheaval that you're dealing with here. And I'm just wondering what you learned about that, and what are some ways to kind of microwave these teams together quickly?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I learned is making sure we're doing everything we can to create advantage. Find a way to get the best players we can possibly get, regardless of the situation. If we've got one good quarterback, go get another good quarterback, and I think you heard him talk about that nonstop this time last year. How can we upgrade the roster? The tops of the roster, the middle part of the roster, the bottom part of the roster. How can we make it better so that we can go sustain inside this 12-game schedule in this league? We're going to need all of it. And that to me is probably the biggest thing that I took from him, being there.
How will your personal social media presence compare to Lane Kiffin's and his and the juice of his canine?
It will be minimal in comparison. I'll let him do his thing. He's going to do it regardless. So it's all good.
I was looking through your schedule. Obviously, these schedules just generally in 2024, yours, but you can pick a grab bag of a team from one of these power leagues. You look at them, you're like, whoa, like there's a moment in every schedule where like, that's the 3-game stretch. I think you guys have 2 Texas schools with Georgia sandwiched in there, maybe in a run. I'm just curious how you look at this new era of football, right? Like when you were at Baylor and you guys are running, you knew you had to be perfect to do that. Now, the Patriots and the Jets, I live up in the Northeast, so I'm going to use them as an example. They don't have to be perfect. Like they're going to lose 3-4 games and be just fine and get the wild card or whatever. Just wondering how you look at football now as these schedules and these 2 leagues pull away a little bit, Jeff.
Yeah, I think it's completely different than it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago from the standpoint of, and I could be dead wrong, could happen this next year, but I just don't see multiple SEC teams being undefeated. I don't know if I see a single team being undefeated in this league. I just think it is so incredibly tough to do, to be able to go run the table and then win an SEC championship game before you get in the playoffs. And I think that's just where we're at from a college football landscape right now. I think there's there's a little more parity maybe than there's been, and I think that bodes well for us.
How do I remember when you were at Ole Miss, you and I were talking, and I came up on this little bit of information that you shared with me that I haven't forgotten it, that you can't whistle, and that some of the coaches that you've worked with, when you're trying to make audibles, trying to make checks during the game, they would whistle. You instead will yell in a high pitch, yeet, yeet, correct?
Yeet, that is correct. That is exactly what it is.
Now, understanding that generally speaking, the home crowd particularly, shouldn't be using cowbells when you have the ball, but should some do it, will yeet, yeet cut through a den of cowbells?
That absolutely it will. It sure will. It has been it's been practiced, and our guys are dialed into it. If they can be across campus, I'll be out for a workout, and if you hit them with it and they're a couple hundred yards away, you'll get a reaction in a hurry. So it's good. A little different setting than being in Davis Wade, but they know to look when they hear it.
Yeah. So the people who are watching on YouTube or listening now can understand this. Give me a little. You're trying to get mine and Pete's attention from across the field or across campus. Give it to me.
Yee! That's all it is right there. And you get it done, and they immediately get reaction and cut their eyes, and you're able to get in and out of something.
When did you that was obviously necessity is the mother of invention. When did that sort of be solidified as your attention grabbing noise of choice?
Yeah, well, it started when we were in Waco, and Joe John Finley is actually who's coordinated Oklahoma. He was signaling, and we were having a hard time getting these guys' attention in loud atmospheres. This was probably in 2014, and we came up with a really strange sound that made a ton of sense, and it has stuck with us everywhere we've gone.
2-year-old Teddy Thamel, my son, enjoys a good zoo. We just went to one this weekend, and that seems like what the monkeys at the Stoneham Zoo are saying.
There you go.
This weekend, it was similar in pitch to that. To shift off that, Jeff, one of the scouting reports I got this morning was that you're a hunter and a fisherman, and you recently went on a little bit of a tarpon fishing expedition. Is that right?
That is right. And I'm hunting and fishing, really bird hunting. So I love to duck hunt. And then I enjoy fishing more freshwater than saltwater, just because hadn't been on the coast a ton, of course. But we went with some dear friends down there to Boca Grande. We went tarpon fishing in the pass, and man, we had a ball. It was great.
But I heard the scoreboard wasn't kind, right?
Good. We got skunked.
Yeah, better there than in the Egg Bowl, I guess.
No doubt about that.
Okay, I haven't been to Starkville in a few years, so if some of these things have changed, let me know. Couple of quick impressions. Best thing on the menu at Lil Dewey's, famous barbecue restaurant there.
Yeah, I still think it's their catfish.
Really?
Fried catfish, yes, sir.
Wow. Okay, I love fried catfish, having grown up in North Alabama, but I haven't had it there. That's on the list. Now, sometimes people make fun of Starkville, and it's unfair. It's been ranked like one of the best small cities in the country. It also has a New Orleans level restaurant, or at least the last time I was there, they called Restaurant Tyler. That was fabulous downtown. Have you been there yet?
I have. I absolutely have.
Give us a quick review of Restaurant Tyler.
Yeah, you got to go with the pork chop. There's no doubt about it. That's A1, bone in, really good, and that's my go-to when I go there.
Now, if I remember right, from being in Starkville a lot during the Dak Prescott era, downstairs from Restaurant Tyler, there's a speakeasy of sorts that serves some food there. Brian Kelly, the restaurateur in Starkville, runs that. He
not
occasionally
the
gets
LSU guy, right?
not the LSU guy. Yeah, he has gotten an occasional wrong call or text message over the years from from that mixed up. Is that speakeasy still humming there? I think it's called the Guest Room.
The guest room, it is. No, they're still rolling. They do the big deal over Christmas time, which is incredible. And but yes, another great spot. Just cool little setting, low ceiling, dark spot that you can go in and get a good bite.
Jeff, as we wrap you up here, I'll drag up another old coach. I worked with Lou Holtz for a number of years, and Holtz once. I'll go ahead and tell the whole story. Maybe I have on the podcast before, but Urban Meyer, who is a position coach, was going to get the Bowling Green job, and he called Lou to tell him he didn't think he was going to take it, and Lou wanted to know why not. And he said, "Well, I don't think it's a good job." And Lou said to him, "Good jobs don't come open, bad ones do. It's your job to take a bad job and make it a good job." Now, I don't, and he added something else too. He said, "By the way, if it were a good job, why the hell would they hire you?" Now, that was prior to Urban success, obviously. But I don't know that anybody would say that Mississippi State's a bad job. And I'm not implying that at all. But Mississippi State's won one SEC football championship in 1941. They won the division in 1998. They've gone to bowls. They've won. They've been number one in the country. What made this a place that you believe that you can make a good job by definition of a championship contender, as that being the definition of a good job?
Yeah, to me, there was two things, and I was constantly looking for these two things when wanting an opportunity to be a head coach, but knew that these two things had to be in place for me to leave a spot like Oklahoma. And these two things are nailed here, and it's proximity to players, which we've already talked about, and support. We've got incredible support here. There's great community here. There's great energy here. You walk into Davis Wade and you have a true advantage when we're taking care of business like we're going to. And that to me is, man, gives us a chance to get done what we want to get done. Can we go get the players we need? And are they going to walk into a full stadium every single Saturday? And if those two things were yes, then we got a chance to go do what we want to do.
State's had a history of producing NFL stars, which certainly plays well with recruits, I'm sure. And Jeff, we're delighted for you. Wish you all the success in the world, and look forward to getting College Game Day back to Starkville. It's a great place. I love going to Stark Vegas.
I can't wait. Appreciate you guys.
Enjoy those youth baseball fields in Starkville this spring, Jeff, and we'll see you in the fall here.
We'll do it. Appreciate y'all. Have a great one.
Great to have Jeff on the pod. What do you think of the hire, the prospect for success, and what constitutes success, not only in his first year, but going forward at Mississippi State?
Well, I think there would be huge regrets if, when the SEC network has the opener of Eastern Kentucky and Mississippi State, if they don't have Jeff Lebby mic'd up to hear that call, that whistle replacement.
Yeah.
That was
I can't whistle either. That stuck with me because I can't. Oh, well, I can whistle like you would whistle a tune, like walking around the house. I can whistle like that, but the loud, get everybody's attention whistle, I can't do that either. Yeah, so maybe that's why that piece of information stuck with me over the years.
That was compelling. That was I was not expecting that, and I am glad we did it. You could tell he didn't want to do the sound twice, but he was happy to do it once.
As you look at this now, Lebby obviously is dealing with the new age of college football, and administrators across the country are starting to try to get their heads around what their budgets are going to look like once this settlement between House versus NCAA case comes to fruition, assuming that it does, as most everyone, particularly you who's covered it so closely and so well, anticipates. What do we need to know as we stand on the cusp of perhaps seismic and permanent change in the way college football is administrated?
Well, Rece, there's going to be a series of votes this week that are generally being viewed in the industry as inevitabilities to settle this case. And I think, like, if you have to pare this down to like what college sports fans need to know and how things will change, I think there's one thing in particular that's important is that revenue will be shared in the neighborhood of $20 million a year for the schools who permissively opt in to do that. Now, you can share 10 if you want. You can share up to 20. It might be 22. It might sneak up. There's a complicated percentage revenue formula that I won't bore you with. But essentially, schools have a salary cap now. And, this bears millions of questions. How will it be divided? Can you do 18 million football and then there? How will Title IX impact this? That is still not known. That is the biggest unknown right now of will Title IX come into play in this revenue distribution model? And the Office of Civil Rights is really going to ultimately probably determine that. Actually, I think the safe prediction is a lawsuit will probably ultimately determine that. And as this pushes forward, the NCAA is going to pick up the bill for $2.7 billion in back pay. That money, $1.6 billion of it, is going to come from withholdings that would have been distributed to all the different leagues. There is some bickering over that right now. Some people aren't happy how it's being cut and sliced. But quite frankly, if you're trying to pay a $1.6 billion bar tab, not everyone's going to agree on how much they drank. So ultimately, starting in 2025, likely listeners here who are fans of a team in the Power Four, your team is going to have the opportunity to have some type of salary cap to disseminate money to athletes. Now, how that gets chopped up and what they do and the decisions that have to be made, these are going to be really hard decisions. Like the era of how this all works functionally is completely changed and still layered in a bit of ambiguity. I was at a recruiting event at Avon Old Farms and a few other places, Springfield Central, Dexter Southfield this week, talking to coaches, and they're laughing at me. They're like, what do we tell these kids in the class of 2025? Like, we don't know. Will we be paying them? Probably. What can we pay them? How will it work? How will NIL factor into this? That's expected to stay outside the house and potentially be an additive to the 20 million or so. So, the only constant covering college sports, Rece, is change, but I do think it's important to just indicate that this week is a complete pivot point, like a once a century type pivot point in college athletics in terms of formally shattering amateurism as opposed to the chip, drip, drip away from amateurism that we've seen the last 2 decades.
I had a long conversation with our friend Rod Gilmore, who is also an attorney in addition to being a brilliant analyst for us. And I told him, I said, I'm not the lawyer, but it seems to me if you say, okay, this is salary cap, it hasn't been like directly negotiated with the people involved, that you're going to have a really hard time keeping this from coming back into court. I don't know if it'll be next year, 5 years, but the idea that this is a permanent settlement seems unlikely to me, even absent Title IX. And Rod said, you might not have gone to law school, but your legal instincts are pretty good. I credit watching Perry Mason. Yeet, yeet to young Teddy if he starts running away from you. That'll get his attention. All right?
Very good. Fun show. Good to have Jeff Lebby. Got some optimism for how things can look and go there. And let's hope little Teddy can test the limits of that salary cap at a Power 5 school or Power 4 school near us. Probably by the time Teddy's rolling in 16 years, it's going to be a Power 2. So I would not bet on those genetics. I would bet on more lawsuits.
Yeah, probably so. Maybe we can get young Teddy to take an official down to Restaurant Tyler, the Speakeasy, and Little Dewey's and have a big weekend there. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Really thank Jeff Lebby, Brandon Langlois from Mississippi State for helping us make that happen. Great to have coaches on. We'll continue to do that throughout the off season. We encourage you to download this podcast at your favorite source, or better yet, subscribe so you never miss an episode.